moving into the cloud. And I'm happy to present gentleman Mike Suglich, who's the founder and president of GreenLight Advisors, who's developed a new municipal benchmarking product that is taking a huge leap in technology and the ability for municipal golf courses to insert and analyze their data much easier, much simpler than whatever's been done before. Mike, I'll let you talk, introduce yourself and your product. We'll have some slides on the screens that you can take a look at. And Mike, tell us all about GreenLight Advisors.
Well, thank you, Harvey. My name is Mike Suglich. My background is actually in accounting and technology. I was a bean counter for about 35 years, selling and implementing accounting software. So pretty familiar with chart of accounts and financials and all that good stuff. And retired from a CPA tech firm and came up with the idea that, with every data analytics and BI, there's all this data sitting out there, and came up with the concept of creating some type of a benchmark framework to use that data to the benefit of a business. And I was talking to a college friend of mine, and I was talking to him about that idea about benchmarking. He's like, Mike, you're pretty passionate about golf. Why don't you start in golf? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So I was a treasurer at a club in Chicago, Ridge Country Club, and the auditors would show up, and they would produce the financials, and in board meetings, whenever the financials would come out, everybody would just shuffle them around. Okay, this is great, thank you very much. But the auditors would basically give us a concept of how we're performing against the other 20 firms that they're basically auditing. So they'd say, yeah, if you're breaking even on food and beverage, you're doing good. If you're spending this percent of money on golf course maintenance, you're doing good. And I'm thinking, there's got to be a better way. So got together with a couple of software developers. We put together a database using a standard financial income statement format of a club. And I needed to come up with an idea now to raise the awareness in the industry. So I got together with, first of all, with Matt Kammeyer from Salt Lake City Golf. He was one of the first organizations. Matt manages 6 golf courses out in Salt Lake City, and got a lead from him from the executive director of the Allied Golf Association out in Utah. And Matt and I just kind of went through some of the data sets that he would use in Excel, like Harvey was talking about earlier. We Excel files all over the place. We keep this data here, this data there. We basically formulated that and translated it into the database, created a report that basically takes the data, compares the course's data against the average of their particular region against the average of all the courses that are in the database. And then we traffic light it. And there'll be some sample reports up there, but with the traffic lighting, with the financial benchmark and an operational benchmark, where we basically take 20 financial metrics, 20 operational metrics, and we benchmark that against the average of the database. And what we did in 2023, I met up with Jack Crittenden from Golf Inc. magazine, and I asked Jack if he would help us raise the awareness about what we're doing. And he said, yeah, Mike, we'd love to do that. And then he did a little research, and he said, you should really go after the municipal market. That's a group that actually would really benefit from that most. So we did a 2023 municipal golf study through Golf Inc. We received participation from over 100 courses across the country, representing all 5 regions of the United States. And this year, I met up with Jay Karen at a conference, and Jay and Don Rea were up on the stage talking about how the industry should collaborate more and provide their data for the benefit of the entire industry. And then I ran into Jay at the coffee shop, and I said, Jay, I saw your keynote speech, and hey, I'm your guy. I said, let's get together and try and get this benchmark movement going. And he said, great, let's do it with the NGCOA in 2024. So we partnered up with the NGCOA. Corey Corey and I have been working very closely together. We were trying to drive new membership to the NGCOA, drive awareness about golf club benchmarks that GreenLight Advisors was using as part of the municipal golf study, and away we go. So this year we're over 300 participants, grabbing the operational and the financial data, and we're on our way. We're super excited about it and very appreciative of the NGCOA for the opportunity and the opportunity of folks like Chris from Tacoma Parks, Washington, Matt from Salt Lake City Golf, and Andrew from San Antonio Alamo City Golf Trail, who all have been very helpful, and they actually participate on our municipal advisory board to help improve upon what we're doing. And also Phillip Martin and Mike Williams from Troon and Landscapes Golf, who are going to be coming up and talking a little bit about their contributions to the project as well.
Mike, thanks. And as Mike mentioned, we're actually doing this in two parts. We have these three distinguished gentlemen to Mike's right. Chris Goodman is the general manager of Metro Parks Tacoma and Meadow Park Golf Course. Matthew Kammeyer, director of golf, Salt Lake City Golf. And Andrew Peterson at the end, president of Alamo City Golf Trail in San Antonio. Second part, we'll have the two gentlemen from the two management companies, Troon and Landscapes, because there are some differences in how they're using it and some differences in questions that were presented to me. So to start off, gentlemen, I'm curious to know, are all three of your operations enterprises, or are they considered community amenities?
We're an enterprise firm.
Actually, neither. We're a private-public partnership that has most autonomy from the city itself.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So that just kind of identifies where you're at right now in the marketplace, as well as how your municipals are treating your operations. So you've all been participating now with Mike on the benchmark. I'm curious to know how each of you are measuring the benefits and value of participating in this municipal benchmarking study.
For Salt Lake City, we manage 6 golf courses, and in the Salt Lake City greater market, the majority of the golf courses, about 77% of them, are municipally owned and operated. So each municipality has a different blending of public funds and revenues that they gain from users. So it's hard to kind of compare one golf entity to the next. So I think that how this would benefit us is being able to compare what we do and how each one of our courses are comparing different levels of financial metrics to other municipalities within our overall region. So I think we have a great understanding of how each one of our courses are obviously performing, but being able to standardize that throughout the region provides us good information. When I go back to our city council, I can say this, here's what another entity is spending on, say, water costs or renovation costs, irrigation systems, things like that. It gives us a better understanding of how to present our financial picture to our city council.
Andrew?
Well, I agree with what both these guys said. And by the way, thank you for giving us a little bit of a platform. We're normally not at the adult table. We're sitting in a closet somewhere else and other muni operators. So thank you for the opportunity. I think the software that Mike put together is fantastic in that you can parse out anything you want, because like these guys alluded to, every municipal golf course operates somewhat differently, whether it's got a management company or they operate as a not-for-profit, or if they are subsidized, or their water's free, or their staffing comes from the parks department outside of the golf operation, whatever that looks like. So I think being able to pull out certain segments of information, but I also like to be able to, I'm a data junkie, and I see Jim in the back of the Lucid study, which has really awesome information as well, that having more information like that to where you can present it to your board or your staff or your peers to understand what other places are doing is fantastic.
Matt, let me get back to you about something. You mentioned that 77% of your market is municipal courses, correct? So will you be taking the lead in trying to recruit those other courses to join the benchmark study to provide a more wider comparisons and benchmarks, I guess, across the entire market?
I think I'll be a great advocate for it. Whether or not I'm out there knocking on doors, we'll have to see how that goes. But it's not of any value to us unless we have a majority of our area participating in collecting the data and agreeing upon this is how we're going to view it. You can't, from what I understand, you can't view it per facility, but it's averaged out. So I think, I think that makes operators a lot more comfortable in sharing their data. And so yes, I'm fully an advocate for this.
Well then, and you other two guys can answer this as well. How difficult do you think it'll be to create an aggregation of more courses participating in the benchmark study?
Well, I think I could comment on that, but so in Matt's market, what's useful is that we have some trendsetters in the industry, such as Matt in Salt Lake City, so I can use and leverage the fact that their 6 courses are participating in the study, and then I can communicate that to others in his state. And as an example, Salt Lake County actually called me last week and said, hey, we'd be interested in participating as well. So I think what it'll do is it'll be a kind of a snowball going downhill a little bit. So I think the more and more municipalities that participate, more and more will gain interest in participating. And just in general, some of the others that are participating, Chicago Park District, the Cook County Forest Preserve courses, obviously Salt Lake City, Tacoma, and San Antonio. We also recently picked up Sacramento and Palm Beach County, Eric's group down in Palm Beach, Florida. So we're gaining momentum. I've had the opportunity to sit down with some of the MCOs who are very interested in participating and sharing data about their municipal courses as well for the betterment of everybody. So we're gaining some real good momentum.
Chris or Andrew, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, and we'll be a big advocate for in our community. We have a lot of public golf courses, municipal golf courses run privately or by a management company. It's good information for all of us to be in there. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to manage these long-term community assets, whether it's a management company or a municipal thing. We're looking at the long range of the game. We just want to run our facility, be stewards of our property for the next, however long we have. I've got 8 years before I go, but I manage a 110-year-old property. I need to manage this property and steward this property for the next 100. So it's a valuable tool for us in the industry. We're all stronger if we take advantage of it. But if you don't, maybe those that are taking advantage of it will get a little bit of a competitive advantage against those that are not.
Andrew?
Yeah, I like that, Chris. I think that the golf world is a pretty familiar group of people. We all are chasing the same common goals. We all want to see each other, mostly want to see each other be successful. And I think sharing that information is vital. We're stewards of the golf courses in San Antonio as well. So the way that I operate them maybe wouldn't be the same I'd operate them if I owned them. I try to squeeze a little bit more out of there. But it's pretty great to be able to reinvest back into the golf courses, pay your staff more, and keep the green fee at a reasonable rate for the citizens of the city. But I think that's where the software comes into a great effect is, yes, you can compare yourself from net operating income if that's really what your driver is, but you also want to see what your payroll is, percentage of revenue, and all those different types of things that Mike software provides.
Yeah, and I think to add on to that, Andrew, as well, is that you can leverage that data to identify what those ratios are. So, Taylor, can you flip some of those slides so we can show just a couple of the reports? One of the reports I wanted to comment on is the best-in-class report card. Go back one, which it has 5 financial metrics and 5 financial metrics and 5 operational metrics. And what we do is we classify those into quartiles And there's 3 quartiles: top 25%, the median, middle 50%, and the bottom 25%. So if you participate and you share your data, we'll give you access to the best-in-class report card, and you'll be able to see which quartile your 5 key financial and 5 key operational metrics fall into. So that's an example of it. And if you participate in the study, we give that away for you, or give that away complimentary. We'll give you a login ID and a password, and you'll be able to see that best-in-class benchmark report.
Gentlemen, like I mentioned before, most of your data and analysis has been spread across who knows how many Excel spreadsheets and different programs to try to do the analysis. So how is Mike's benchmarking software advancing your efforts to organize, quantify, analyze, and compare the numerous data points that are important for your own operations?
Well, I think one benefit that I could speak to is we basically upload our budget into the software, and it allows our staff who really don't get too granular with our budget information. They're just focused on theirs, but it kind of gives them this kind of green light, red light, how are you doing in comparison to the budget for their specific course? And so it's really kind of a very quick view to see, are we on track with our budget or are we not on track with our budget? So I think that from an internal standpoint, I think is very valuable and helpful to us. But it also helps us to identify what are our key performance indicators and make sure that we're communicating that throughout our organization, because we feel those are the important things that we should be paying attention to.
Andrew?
We don't use it for that application necessarily, but I like it from the standpoint of just being able to compare at any place in the country. Because I think whether we operate the same or not, and whether we're in different regions or not, doesn't necessarily matter, because I think the percentages play true across the country no matter the facility, and that's what I like.
Chris?
Yeah, for us, it's done a couple different things. One, we really got to look at it and see what our problems were. Well, one of our problems is that we've been a little bit lazy accounting-wise. Whether if we do a community project, we're bringing a bus driver, out and bringing a kid in from the Tacoma school district without any income coming in. It's just a sure expense. Is that an operating cost? Well, so we were able to kind of restructure the budget, kind of put it in after the operating cost. We're in the process of going through a capital reimagine project. So we just secured funding for that project, in part because we're following best management practices. We're using modern data analysts, such as benchmarking to prove to the entities that are trying to give dollars to municipalities that, hey, you are actually operating in a business-like manner. And when we've approached these financial companies, there's a lot of skepticism on municipal golf, and probably for good reason. I think a lot of us have maybe gotten a little lazy in cases with our accounting.
How will Mike's data, as you're inputting your data and pulling these reports, how is this going to help your internal management, along with the communications necessary by you as operators with the various municipal components that most often are looking over your shoulder, whether it's city council or the mayor, or if there's a park and rec director, or taxpayers, or media? Will this benchmarking help you better communicate your efforts and your progress than what you've been able to do before?
I think I'll jump in on that one. I think one of the key benefits I see personally is the ability to leverage the benchmarking data when you're talking to your city leadership about what some of the standards are in the industry, to try and create some initiatives at the course to make improvements or to raise greens fees. And if they see that the average in our region, the greens fee average is $40, and we're still at $25. And our profitability and our performance is basically zero, and the average of the region is generating $200,000 or $300,000 to the bottom line. We can use that to drive some improvements. So I think the communication of what some of the standards are in the regions and across the country will raise some eyebrows with the leadership in municipal government about understanding what those metrics are and how they can drive some changes at some of their municipal golf courses.
Do you agree with that, or do you have other ideas about how you'll use this data to better communicate with?
Well, I think communication is the key, and especially when you're kind of working in the municipal format. So what we kind of ended up doing was we got them to buy off on the idea of operating income. That was very helpful. So, hey, we're putting operating income towards long-term debt at a percentage. Operating income towards long-term debt. Operating income to social sustainability programs or environmental sustainability programs. All of those things are great, but they're lower on the priority level because you have to pay for your operating expenses first. Take care of the golf course business first. And for people that aren't used to dealing with financial realities, or maybe they're super skilled people, but you've only worked on a revenue side, or you've only worked on an expense side, the idea of seeing how that works together and how it can be applied to benefit the community is something that's pretty powerful.
Matt, you have a comment on that?
Yes, I'd mentioned how our expenses are kind of somewhat a blending of different revenue sources. So we may have golf fees coming in. Some municipalities will subsidize certain parts of an operation. They may require, parts of your operation to use other city services. So it's hard to do kind of an apples to apples comparison. But what this does is this data would allow us to say for something like water, here's a cost that on average our region is spending per acre foot of water that I can then at least apply to what we're doing and say, hey, we're either above that or we're below that. Maybe we need to make an adjustment somewhere else within, that city operation and how certain things are funded or not funded.
Andrew?
I'm right with what Mike said. I think it's a great form of backup where I'm fairly autonomous, but I do have a board of directors that I work with, and sure, they can take my word and believe that I'm a great operator. That's maybe to be determined, but I think the fact that I can supply them with information, comparative analysis of this is how we're doing, this is how the region's doing, this is how the country's doing, and give them that perspective from that standpoint where they just don't have to take my word for it.
So we've heard a couple sessions during the NGCOA event, which ended today at lunch, about that we may be reaching, again, this is consumer reporting, consumer research, that we may be reaching the ceiling on where golf courses can go with rates. Most golf courses have been successful raising their rates over the last 5 years as demand has gone far stronger than we've seen for a long time. But we may be reaching that ceiling, and municipal golf courses have always been known and have the reputation for being the home of affordable golf. So how will now the benchmarking data that you're getting from Mike enable you to help keep your courses as the home of affordable golf? Or maybe in your market you're not the affordable golf, I don't know, but I'm guessing that you probably are. And so how will this data that you can now use and compare and see what other courses are doing and analyze against your own rate setting help you maintain that affordability?
I think affordable is relative. And I think that so many municipal golf course operators for such a long time have felt that stigma down upon them that they have to keep rates affordable. Well, a lot of people are making a lot of money these days, so they need to lift their margins and they need to lift the rates to be able to create the same margins that they've made all along, because our fixed expenses have gone way up. So increasing rates is palatable as long as it's justifiable. So if you're returning investment back into the golf courses and continuing to make those better, people will pay more for it.
And I also think that an interesting observation, we're about halfway through the 2024 study in terms of gathering data, and some of the interesting numbers that are starting to show up are actually the revenues have stayed steady, but the operating costs, as we all know, are starting to drive up. So I think in terms of municipals being able to provide a healthy and long-term support for their operations, they need to keep an eye on those operating costs and try and keep those revenues in line to support those increasing costs. And when we categorize our revenues and our expenses, we break them down into that top, median, and bottom quartile. And I can tell you that the top quartile performing courses are actually controlling costs much better. And just as an example, golf course maintenance, the top performing profitable courses are probably spending about 25% of revenue on golf course maintenance, and the bottom quartile, in terms of courses that are probably in many cases losing money, they're spending 50% on golf course maintenance. So there's some secret sauce there, and I think controlling the costs over the last couple of years and in the next couple of years going forward are probably very important.
So do you see, as we potentially hit this ceiling, and we don't know where that ceiling is and what it's going to be? Again, this is the consumer research. McDonald's found out that they hit the ceiling, and now they've come back with a new $5 value meal or whatever. But they were losing business at almost every one of their same stores because they hit the ceiling and actually went beyond it. So as we get to that point, as Mike said, does it require you to be that much more scientific in how you're controlling costs?
I think anytime you're setting fees, you want to be able to understand your own needs, your own expenses and costs. But you look for in the market for signals of what what your customer base can absorb and what they can feel. And so this type of information would help us to be able to add to those signals to see, okay, what direction do we need to move.
Right, that's what I'm looking for. Chris?
Mike, for us, we've kind of been covering operating costs for a long time. So for us, the conversation with rates is more about the things that we want to do, for the community, whether it be, another child program, another bus, an environmental program, if we want to do a Gary Oak restoration project or a capital project. So for us, we haven't really seen the operating expenses be in question with our operation for probably since the recession of 2010, 8, 9, 10. It was tough for us back then, but for a long time, operating costs really haven't been an issue for us.
Andrew, anything else?
No, I think these guys covered it. But I think it's a glass ceiling for sure. And I think that knowing what your competitive set is doing is really, really important. You don't always have to go up on the rack rates either. There's lots of opportunities to kind of hit the twilight rates. Dynamic pricing is such a buzzword, but I think that's where there's a lot of opportunity for revenue growth is in the softer rates.
Okay, we'll sum this up. Mike, you want to sum up what we've heard today? Gentlemen, if you have any more comments about your engagement with Mike's GreenLight Advisors and benchmarking, where you plan to take it over the next year or two, would be good to hear.
Yeah, well, I would just like to recap with my appreciation for these three gentlemen and their support of the efforts from the Bean Counter from Chicago and helping drive benchmarking in the municipal golf industry, and hopefully eventually into the semi-private and into the private sector as well. So thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to dismiss these three gentlemen. Certainly hope you hang around, and we're going to bring to the stage. Both these gentlemen are in the major league segment of golf course managers. Both of you have both a mix of municipal and daily fee and private. Obviously, but we're speaking specifically about your municipal operations. We've heard from Mike about what he's doing. I want to go through some of the same questions I asked the other gentlemen. And first is, how are you measuring the benefits and the value of participating in Mike's GreenLight Advisors benchmarking study?
So from a Troon perspective, we manage a lot of clients. We're a third-party management company, and having third-party benchmarking data is really crucial in managing those relationships. So participating, having that information, and then also using that in our strategic planning process with our municipalities about where the red areas are the weaknesses, and the green are our strengths, and really leveraging that in what we do. So I think it's another data point. At Troon, we also value a balanced approach to our operations. So we measure members or customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and also the financial results all equally. And by having the data points and the benchmarks, we can really give a realistic picture to our owners of where their operation is.
Mike? Yeah, and to echo what Phillip said, our clients today are increasingly sophisticated, certainly more so than they were, even 10 years ago. And, so the approach that is important to take, just from an information gathering and sharing perspective, supporting recommendations, understanding really where the opportunities are at the property and in the marketplace. I think for years, we looked at municipal operations as, dinosaur might be a word that comes to mind, because in many respects it was, well, this is how we've always done it. We can't raise pricing more than a quarter because that's what we've always done. And having the data and the true knowledge of what's driving the business, this study just further supports information that we're already gathering and utilizing on a daily basis in our business plans for our properties. But it allows us to take kind of one additional step further.
Mike, I probably should start with you. Can you talk a little bit about how you've been able to successfully recruit multi-course operators into the benchmarking study? No, Mike Suglich, sorry.
Well, I've been involved in consulting for about 35, 40 years. And when I'm looking at data that's coming in that's both financial and operational, and I see those red lights up there, I start thinking consulting. And I'm done consulting. I don't do consulting anymore. I've done it for 35 years. So the light went on, and I'm like, I need to get the MCOs involved because they do consulting, and my strategy is to partner with the MCOs. So if there is a consulting opportunity and there is a municipal and there is a private or a semi-private that is looking for some assistance about what levers they pull to change to improve upon their red lights in the software and try and get back to some of the medians and standards and costs and revenues, they can engage the smartest people on the street that are dealing with the most courses and have the most experience with understanding what levers you do need to pull to improve the results of your golf course. So one, it's to get them engaged to gather the data to make the service more valuable. And two, it's to provide a consultative service to the municipals and the golf courses that are looking for somebody to help them along the way.
Thanks, Mike. Phillip and Mike, I'm curious, as I asked the other gentleman, how does GreenLight's cloud-based technology help advance your efforts to organize, quantify, analyze, and compare numerous data points easier than you did before?
Yeah, the software is just simple. A simple simplification, and then the data is readily available. So I'm so old, I used Lotus 123 back in the day, but everybody remembers that. But, we crunched data and did pivot tables and tried to do that, and you got a snapshot of what it was. And with this type of technology, not only will you know what today is, but you know what the trends are in the industry.
I never thought we'd have Lotus fans in the audience. That's pretty cool. Mike, what about you?
Yeah,
we very intentionally began moving to the cloud 7 or 8 years ago, and so this is really dovetailed elegantly into our approach already. And to Philip's point, it's very simple to use, understand, that any city council member can look at it and get it. And that's, I think, that's important.
So the gentlemen we had before have their courses in singular markets. Both of you have municipal courses in multiple markets. So will you benchmark those clients against each other and be able to adjust for things like weather, labor costs, facility type, different amenities, and so on? Is that going to be, are you able to kind of smooth out the benchmarking across your clients across various markets?
I mean, I think that's definitely, the number of starts is a key data point for a lot of markets. So the Midwest versus Florida, we'll have different tee time starts, which is another good metric. Honestly, in our industry, we have a hard time counting rounds of golf. So if we could just start there, that would be a great help, because that's really the creator of all the KPIs that we use, like merchandise revenue per round, golf revenue per round, things like that. So I feel like the data, with the way the software is, you can slice it multiple ways. But in the private club industry, we definitely compare number of dues, rates as a comparison when we look at different clubs, because people that are paying a lot more or a lot less, there's different metrics that go along with that. So I think another key data point would be the rack rates that are in the software, and then what follows from that. And then also think in the different markets, if you can get a national trend of rate increases over the years, when we put that against what CPI is increasing, then we can keep up with inflation at most of our clubs. So I think that's a real important metric as well.
Mike, Harvey, you asked about, would we be using this to benchmark, say, properties in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Denver, Colorado, or Grant, we're already doing that internally, yet this does. Where are we at? Can you hear me now? What this study does, though, is help. Number one, it helps inform our view of our own results. Helps us. Not only are we able to benchmark individual facilities, but we're able to benchmark our portfolio from a bigger picture, so that it validates what we're looking at. So just being able to, more data is better.
Are you more interested in benchmarking your facilities that are in different markets, or is there the same or more interest in benchmarking your facilities against other municipal facilities in those respective markets?
Yes.
And?
Yes, no, we want to look at it from both directions. So we're certainly most concerned about how we're operating, how we're fulfilling whatever promise it is to the public agency or client that we're working with. But also really having a keen insight into what the rest of the market is doing, so that are we leading the market? Are we chasing the market? Those are important factors when we're looking at important strategic decisions that we want to make.
Phillip?
Yeah, I go back to the communication part of it, is that when I sit down with a golf committee at a municipality, I want to have my story right when we start asking for things, and to make sure we have the backup and the data to support what we want to do. And I can say at a facility that does 50,000 rounds, if you can drive a $2 rate increase in 1 year, it's a significant contribution to the organization and to the city, for their capital fund as well.
I think it's a simple assumption, so I'll say instead, I know that both of you, as most MCOs, have expansion plans. Will the data that you're now gathering from benchmarking assist your expansion plans in going to other municipalities and trying to recruit them as new clients?
Yes, absolutely. Troon is trying to take over the world, and they're on the path to world domination. But yes, I think one of the things, and Mike and I have had this conversation several times over the last several months. It's really how can we come alongside participants of the study and help them either consultatively or on a larger scale. And it's really about developing that relationship. We've had the opportunity to make a lot of mistakes. And so we've had the opportunity to learn a lot of lessons where single operators, when they make a mistake, it's sometimes much more costly. And so that's where we see the opportunity and the benefit with partnering with a study like this.
Phillip, you have a chance to get back at Mike now.
I do.
Yes.
Appreciate the honesty, Mike. That's great.
Tell me how you really feel. Right?
I would say the experience curve that we have as operators benefits our clients in a lot of ways. And a lot of times the best decisions that clubs make are the ones they don't do, which we all have been a part of. So I really believe that, if there are deficiencies or a need for that in an operation, management companies have the experience to come in and do it faster than you could by yourself. We do believe in that. And that's part of our value that we have for our clients.
So, when does Troon expect to have taken over the world? Never mind. Sorry about that. Mike Suglich, you want to sum up on this for us, and then we'll take any questions we have from the audience.
Yeah, sure. I have a general observation that I think we all realize that municipal golf courses are not necessarily in the business of looking at their bottom line and making those courses profitable. I think a good number of them are very, very profitable, but they all have different missions. And every municipal that you talk to, the mission statements are a little bit different. It's not always about profitability. I think that's why we've had the opportunity to get MCOs like Landscapes Golf and Troon involved, because they see the better good of the industry in terms of, hey, this is going to help the municipal golf industry. And that's kind of the ground floor of golf in this country. And many of us, including myself, started playing golf at a municipal golf course. I played at Marquette Park, a 9-hole golf course in the middle of the city. Lugged my bag and my cart up onto the bus with my buddy Mike Francis and Archer bus to Kedzie over to Marquette Park, with our little punch card to play for $5. And that's the entry point into golf. And if we can provide a solution and a service to the municipal golf courses around the country, and Troon and Landscapes are helping us along the way, then we're, it's for the better good of the game. So that's kind of the general thought. And I appreciate Mike and Phillip, two vice presidents of operations that know more about golf course operations than this bean counter does. And I certainly appreciate their support. So thank you.
We still have Matt here. Are the other two gentlemen still with us? Chris and
yeah, Chris is in the back.
Chris is in the back. Anybody? Do we have a microphone? And people have questions. Does anybody have any questions, either for who we have on stage or who we had previously on stage that are still with us here? We'll take questions. We have a little time. Anybody? Let me ask a question. How many of the people here are involved or running municipal operations? Okay, excellent. I should have asked that before. So what we presented, and the technology end of this, is now a cloud-based system. That's the technology that's enabling people like you, people like we have on the stage, to be able to enter their data and have returned to them the various reports. Mike has a dashboard with this information along with your rankings that we haven't had before. Like I said, that's kind of been the holy grail, especially in public golf, where we just haven't been able to scale it to a point where it was meaningful. Now we have that tool to be able to scale to make it meaningful for not only municipalities, but probably somewhere down the road, daily fees as well. Gentlemen, any last words?
Up on the screen, if anybody's interested that's not participating in the municipal golf study, there's a sign-up site. It's called signupgolfclubbenchmarks.com. You basically put your name and course information in there, and we'll send you off a welcoming email message to participate in the study. And the participation date ends on January 31st, so it's basically a couple weeks out. So sign up if you're interested in participating.
Thank you very much. We have some popcorn left over here. We have a bar over there. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening. And these gentlemen will hang around for a while if we have some questions and want to talk to Mike or anybody else personally. Thanks again.